Hello, it's James Taylor.
And Maria Franzoni back again. He can't get rid of me.
No, I can't get rid of her. You're listening to the SpeakersU Podcast. Welcome. If this is your first time here, this is Maria and I talk about all things speaking business. So if you're a professional speaker, an aspiring speaker, you've come to the right place. Maria, good to see you. How's your week going?
It's busy. And I'm actually thinking about sort of getting my Christmas cards done. Ugh, I hate that job. What about you?
Very busy, just getting, I've got a bit of a last minute virtual keynote to deliver. So I'm working all hours at the moment trying to do this one. And it's always last minute ones are hard because you've got to compress everything into such a small period of time. So trying to do that at the moment between everything else that's going on. But let's not bore the audience with that. Let's give the audience some ROI. As of this episode. Episode was on ROI, your return on investment for listening to this show, is Maria and I are going to share the tools that we use almost every day, some of them every day, to help us in our speaking business. So Maria, do you want to kick things off with some of the tools that you could not live without?
Yeah, I mean, actually, one or two tools that are sort of a bit out of the ordinary that people might not know about, I thought I would also include, which might be fun. But let's start with one that I couldn't live without, which I think is super important. And I think most people couldn't live without. I can't live without Stripe for payments. So I can't live without, I need that, right? So I have Stripe connected to my Calendly. So when somebody's booking a session with me, they book it on Calendly, it's connected to Stripe, and then Stripe, I use Zapier. So I'm giving you three tools in one here. I use Zapier or Zapier, whatever you want to call it, to then send, I'm going to tell you a fourth tool all in one sentence, right? To send then a draft invoice to my Xero, which is my bookkeeping app. So Calendly is for planning my sessions. People book, they go on there, they see what my availability is, they choose a date and time that works for them, they fill out their details, they then get an invitation to join me on Zoom. That's 5. I've used 5 in one sentence. Gosh, we're going to rattle through these, James. And that the Calendly then, the money's taken on Stripe, and it's all in my bookkeeping, and so it's all done really easily. And I love Stripe for that, because Stripe is the bit that enables the money taking very easily, and I don't have to sort of send an invoice in advance with bank details, collect the money, then send them a calendar link. It's all done in one nice smooth operation. Love that.
Now, let me ask you this question. Are you a Google Workspace user?
No, and I'm sort of thinking maybe I should be. So many people are. I use Dropbox and have done for many, many years. So what happened to me is many years ago, I had a PC that was actually set up and designed for me to be able to do all sorts of amazing things. And I had all sorts of great software on there, and it was fabulous, and it was built. And it died, and I wasn't using a cloud backup. I was using a manual backup system, and I hadn't backed up for a while because, and that's when I used Dropbox. And what I love about Dropbox is that whenever I change laptop or computer, I just plug it in and it brings everything into me. And I've got it on the laptop, because I think with Google, it's always in the cloud, isn't it, rather than being on your machine? Or have I got that wrong?
Yes, no, but you're absolutely right. But here's the interesting thing, and why this was actually one of the tools I was going to suggest, which is Google Workspace. And so my team, we all use Google Workspace, and this accomplishes a number of things. First of all, it has all of our files, everything that's within it as well. And we have some areas which are off, some of the team don't have access to, but it's all in the cloud. But I can also have it on my computer as well, so it's constantly doing little backups in the background. And so if I want it just remotely, if I'm going on a plane and I want to have access to everything on this folder, then I can do that. But here's the reason I was going to suggest it to you and maybe other listeners is, and I used all those tools you mentioned. I used to use Stripe, Zapier, we actually still use Xero, and we can still use Zoom as well. But Google Workspace has pretty much replaced all of those things in one tool. So for example, actually with Stripe, I'm not sure about Stripe. Maybe it doesn't do Stripe. There's probably Google Payments it would do it through. So what would happen in your case is that someone can go onto my calendar and there's a link like you have with Calendly. They schedule that time, they make that payment, that automatically goes on, it recognizes my calendar, so it goes onto the calendar as well. And then it automatically sends them a link to the Google Meets, which is the equivalent of Zoom as well. So everything is in that one place. But here's the additional thing that you can do with that. When you do that coaching call, you have Google Gemini that's recording everything behind it as well. So it's a great, and I know you use a separate tool for doing this. It does all of writing up all the notes from that point. You have access to it, your client has access to it as well. And it's all sitting within one payment, and I don't have to do any fancy Zaps or Zapier thing. So maybe something to have a look at, because we used to use all those tools as well, and we just Alison in the office just said, why are we paying all this money to all these different providers? Can we not just find something that can just do the job of 4 of these things? And that's why we ended up with Google Workspace.
Yeah. Well, you see, my reasoning is that if you put all your eggs in one basket and there's a problem with that, something happens. If something happens to Google and it falls over for a day, everything's stuffed. I can't do anything. Whereas if I'm using so that I'm always nervous of putting all my eggs in one basket. And maybe I'm overcautious, but I've been caught out a few times too many. I actually do use a Google Calendar, so my Calendly is connected to my Google Calendar. So yes. So it's all of those things. So yeah. And I use Fathom as my note taker. Fathom is free. So there's no cost to Fathom. I haven't got I don't know what the cost of the Google Workspace is, but I don't think Calendly is very expensive. And Stripe, of course, you only pay an amount based on what they're taking anyway, and you'd have to pay credit card costs anyway, full stop, whoever you use. So the Google Calendar is free. Zapier is not very expensive, but so I would be nervous of putting all my eggs in one basket.
But you did mention like 2 tools we use. Like, so Xero is a tool that we use. It actually wasn't on my list of tools, but it's the kind of the boring stuff that does the accounts and
it's important. The boring stuff's important.
It's really important. But like you, the way I use Stripe, so I'm not doing coaching like you, but for the clients that want to pay by a credit card for deposits, for example, we send an invoice which has a percentage added on top of it to cover the credit card fees, which can be quite high, especially if someone's paying by an American Express. And all of that is handled through Stripe. As you said, it's all kind of linked together as well. And it's great. It's fantastic to be able to just kind of send that invoice out, someone pays, and was it you that told, you had on a previous episode, you told me about the allowance or the maximum that someone could spend on their American Express card? A client, was it you that had that conversation with?
I don't think it was me. We did talk about amounts, but it wasn't a maximum, so no, it wasn't me. But with your Xero, of course, it can automatically add the Stripe credit card charges to the invoice, so you don't have to calculate it. Yeah. So I don't do that B2C, because my understanding was that you're not supposed to B2C add credit card charges on. We did do it B2B, absolutely. Yeah. So just be careful if you're doing it B2C.
Interesting. Yeah, thankfully, I with the B2C side, and this is probably kind of coming into the other side, is that we should talk about like online courses and membership programs. Yeah. And I can't remember what stage you're at with yours, but we've actually haven't been doing so much stuff over the past 2 years, but we have a lot of online summits, online courses, membership programs. People attend retreats. They have access to all that stuff as well. And the tool that we use to kind of manage all that and give people their access is Kajabi. And Kajabi has been very good for us. It's pretty straightforward to use as well. And I know lots of people that create online courses, online membership programs, or group coaching programs. A lot of them use Kajabi. It's not the cheapest one by any means out there, but I've actually quite enjoyed using Kajabi. I seem to remember, because you have courses as well, and I can't remember if you're a Kajabi person or if you're with something else.
I'm on Kajabi too, and I'll tell you, I went onto Kajabi not specifically for the courses, but for the flexibility of being able to change my website whenever I want at the drop of a hat, to add a page here, take a page off, change things super easily without having to have somebody who's really technical to do it, without having to pay money to a designer every single time. That I can just go in, and it's just so easy to use, and I don't think it is expensive actually. It's probably pricier than other things, but when you add the fact that it's always kept up to date in terms of its security, the fact that you don't have to worry about it falling over, the fact that it's hosted, that it's got all of these different, you can have your email list on there instead of paying for, and I used to pay for MailChimp and I don't anymore. I brought it all into Kajabi. So I think when you add up actually all of the additional costs you'd have to pay, which is your hosting and your email list and somewhere to put your courses if you weren't using Kajabi, I don't think it is that expensive. I think but do not put the prices up, Kajabi. I'm not saying go up.
Yeah. Well, interesting. I know that Andrew Bryant, we should give a shout out to Andrew Bryant, a speaker that's based in Portugal, and he uses it. He kind of runs his whole speaking business from using Kajabi, so he doesn't have WordPress or anything else. He kind of uses that as well, and he does coaching, so I think he runs the coaching part through the Kajabi. And I actually know quite a few people. So I actually went to the Kajabi offices in California a few years ago, and I met with a team there, and they shared some of the numbers with me. And a lot of these thought leaders, in total, they've done something like $5 billion in revenues of their courses and their coaching programs. So it's, if you're in that world and you don't want the hassle of creating lots of websites and different things, you want it all kind of hosted, Kajabi is a good one to go with. What other tools, Maria, what other ones are on your list?
Okay. Here's one that you might not have thought of or might not considered. This is a plugin, actually, to your browser. I use it in Chrome, and it's called Scribe. Have you ever used Scribe, James?
I've heard about this, but I don't think I've actually used it, no.
Okay, I'll tell you what's so clever about Scribe. So you just turn it on when you happen to be doing anything, and it will follow what you're doing, and it will create an SOP, a standard operating procedure. It will give you like the training. So if you are just starting to, if you've got a new person coming in and you want to show them how to use your CRM or how to do any particular activity, any of the things that we've talked about, you can just press the Scribe button and it will follow you, and it will take screenshots and it will write instructions, and it's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But also you can do it for yourself, like if you're learning something and you don't use something very often, because I find I'll do something and then not use it for several months and I've got to go back and use it again, and I think I can't remember how to do this. But if I keep the procedure, the process in Scribe, and do you know what, James? It's free. It's free.
We love free tools. We love free
I know.
tools. So I've got a serious question for you. Could I do an SOP for how my wife makes a cup of tea? Because she's always complaining I make the worst cup of tea. And so she said, "What do you do? How do you manage to make such a bad cup of tea?" So could it do that for me? Could I create a tea making SOP on the background?
I don't think you could really, because it's following your screen and what you're doing on the screen. No. So I think there you probably need to get her to video how to do it. But it's taken me quite a long time to train my husband in how to make tea, because he's a Yorkshireman. He leaves his tea bag in the tea, right? Which is just, I mean, how strong is that? You could put the spoon in, it will stand up. He also has brown sugar in his tea. It's like, oh my God. And he drinks Earl Grey. This is a Yorkshireman. I drink Yorkshire tea, right? He's the Yorkshireman. He has Earl Grey, leaves the tea bag in, has sugar in it, and it's just so strong. It's just crazy. For me, that's like drinking perfume. We've digressed.
Yeah. Our American listeners are going, how can they speak for so long about tea? We're British.
Listen, really I'm gagging for a cup of tea. I'm going to make one after this episode, I'll tell you. Gagging.
Let's get back on course. Let me give you one I use every single day, and it is built specifically for speakers. And I actually use it. I don't use 95% of the features in it, but I almost use it just as a way of tracking inquiries that are coming in and just kind of have as a calendar for engagements. And that is called eSpeakers. And one of the things there's a couple of things I quite like about eSpeakers. When you add an inquiry into eSpeakers, it also creates a little email address for that engagement. And so you can add that email address to the CC when you're having conversations with the client, and everything gets into the one. So this is really useful if you have an assistant, for example, who's maybe dealing with inquiries like, well, what did they say? How much did they quote? It's really good for that as well. And it's I know a lot of speakers that use it, and it's one of those ones I use every single day. eSpeakers, go and check it out.
Fantastic. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I've had people ask me about it, and I don't like to recommend something that I haven't used personally. So I've not used it because it's not been relevant to me. But the fact that you're saying that actually it's worth looking at and using. So does that work beside your CRM? Because I thought eSpeakers also had a CRM built within it, but you don't use the CRM part of it.
Not really. I don't really use it to its maximum. There is also a marketplace there that they have engagements, potential speaking opportunities that come up. I don't use any of those things there as well. The thing that I use it for is to track the engagements, the inquiries, the leads, the holds, the confirms. It's also got a really nice feature where you can integrate your document with it. It creates your contracts. So basically, you just put in all the information about the event, who you're contracting with, and then you press merge and it spits out the contract. So that kind of saves a bit of time for doing your contracts as well. So there's a couple of features that are really, really good with it as well. What else? What other ones do you have on your list, Maria?
So one of the ones that I wish I'd had many years ago, because I spent so much money on this, is Wise. Do you use Wise?
I do, yes.
There you go.
I love seeing that little notification you've been paid. That's one of my favorite notifications.
So if people don't know what it is, Wise is one of those challenger banks that lives in the ether. And I used to use, I won't mention high street banks, but I used a couple of high street banks for my international bank accounts. And the problem with the high street bank is they will charge you a monthly fee to have that account, and then they will charge you quite a bit of money when you receive the funds, bank charges, and then when you want to change it into pound sterling, they charge you another load of money. Now Wise does not charge you to have international accounts. So I have a euro account, a dollar account, and a sterling account with them. But you could have any currency you like, and you can get paid in any currency. And then when you take it out, it gives you a really competitive commission. And you can even have a credit card and use it, or debit card rather, and use it abroad and withdraw that currency. I think it's amazing. I am so impressed with it, and so frustrated that I didn't know about it, or it didn't exist. I spent so much money on bank charges and oh my god.
I think it's great. I seem to remember Wise is Irish. Revolut is the big competitor in the space as well. They're the UK, although the CEO actually lives in Dubai, but they're based in the UK. And the person that first turned me on to Wise was the bass player in Simple Minds, a friend of mine, Jed Grimes. And he told me about years ago, because when he was touring on the road, and they were in, Sao Paulo one day, and then they're in Chicago the next day. And it's kind of boring, but like, how do you keep track? Like, how do you make all these payments? You want to go into Starbucks and get a cup of coffee, or you order food or whatever, get an Uber. And that's where it came in really useful. So he turned me onto it. We love it. We're big fans of Wise. Gradually, they've kind of increased their fees a little bit, so it's always good to have some competitors come in. Yeah, a little bit of competition is quite useful. But definitely, I'm with you. I'm with you on the Wise thing.
I thought it was American. So you say it's Irish? Are you sure?
I think the founders are Irish. I could be wrong, but for some reason I think the founders.
Let us know if you're listening in. Let us know. Give us one of your tools then, because let's come back to you.
Well, let's talk about one I'm just using just now. Ecamm Live. Ecamm Live is I use it. Actually, primarily I use it for when I'm doing virtual keynotes, because it sets up really well, and I can throw videos into it. And during the pandemic, I became a power user of that tool, and it's really good. And I just kind of keep it going. There's probably other tools that you can get now which are fancier, but Ecamm Live is a great one. Basically what it does is, if you're having, like, I have multiple cameras in here in the studio, so you can put to different cameras. I have a little clicker that can move me to different cameras. If I want to suddenly play in a video, it kind of plays in the video. It's just great. So that's Ecamm. I think you're an Ecamm Live user.
I used to use it when we were doing our live shows on LinkedIn. I don't have the need for it anymore, so I stopped using it. But I totally agree with you. It was really good. You could do all sorts of things. A very clever piece of kit. So if I needed to use it again, I would. But I don't really need to in my coaching.
I think it's also. I think it's also really good. We tried this. I think we experimented with it, and we didn't really get any good ROI from that one. But one of the things you can do with Ecamm Live is you could be filming, let's say, an interview like this, and then you could press to have it go out live on your LinkedIn profile, your Facebook page, your Twitter, whatever, all these places at the same time. And that used to be really complicated to do. And now you can just use that Ecamm Live to do all of that as well. So that's another reason, if you're doing kind of maybe a daily, in your industry, what's happening in the news, it's a really good tool to use for that.
Brilliant. Okay, let me give you another one. What should I give you next? Let me see. Oh yes, GoFullPage. Do you know that one? No, you don't, do you? Oh, no. Again, it's a little plug-in to Chrome. And so, you've got a page perhaps on a website, and you want to capture the whole lot. Normally, if you do a screenshot, you can just get that screenshot. If you press GoFullPage, it will go down all the page and take the entire page in. And you can then download it either as a PDF or as a .ping, so as an image. So that if you were trying to, and I'm terrible at remembering to do these things, but sometimes I remember. So if I'm trying to do a before and after of a profile or a web page of somebody to see when I've worked with them, you can do you can get the whole thing. Or if you're trying to get information, all the details, if something's only there for a short period of time, sometimes people put things up for a short period of time, and you can get the whole lot on one PDF. Isn't that cool?
That's a very nice tool. I like
free, James. It's free.
You find all these free things.
I love a freebie.
Well. Okay, here's something that's not free and is incredibly expensive for what it is. This is SEMrush. So I know in a previous episode we talked about SEO and GEO or AEO. There's lots of different terms for it now, but this is a tool that we use. So essentially, it's to help you identify keywords that you should be ranking for online, and then also you can then start to use it to track how you're doing against your competitors on those keywords as well, and you can make changes, and it tells you things that you can do to different pages, different websites to improve that. It's not cheap. I think it's about $200 a month that we pay for it, but it's something that I don't use every day, but my assistant uses it every day, and we're I think you have to be a little bit not nervous. What is the word? You kind of have to always be very conscious of new competitors coming into the market and how your competitors are doing around you, the competitive marketplace. So we know who our main competitors are in the different areas I speak on, and we track all of their stats for all their websites, and we know where they're weak and where they're strong. And sometimes, we just did it a few months ago, there was one particular speaker who was ranking better than me on a couple of keywords that I really wanted. So we created a campaign to basically beat his website. And that's the tool that we use to help us do that. And it's very, it's a bit cut and thrust how you do it, but it's a business after all, and that's kind of our job. And if you want to be seen as the number one on the ranking for your phrase, the topic that you speak on, then you probably have to invest in some SEO tools.
Oh, we're seeing another side of James now, aren't we? Oh, how exciting, how interesting. Okay, let me share my favorite app with you, and I'm sure you use this. Melanie Goodman introduced me to this, so I've got to thank Melanie Goodman, LinkedIn expert, brilliant if you want to learn about LinkedIn, by the way. TextExpander. Do you know TextExpander? No, James, you're going to have a list of things to play with now. Oh my God. This is not free, but it's something like $5 a month or something crazy. Now, you can have your own version or you can have a team version. What it does is it takes what it calls a snippet, so an abbreviation. It takes an abbreviation that you type in and it replaces it with a lot of text that you've saved. So for example, if I'm writing something and I'm writing it regularly and I want to be able not to have to keep cutting and pasting it, I use the letter Z at the beginning. So I will say Z and I might write something and then it will replace it. automatically, and it will replace it in anything that I'm working on, whether it's a Word document, an email I'm sending, whether it's on my phone, it will replace it. Now, what's great if you're a team, if you're saying, well, this is the text I want us to use. So I can imagine in the bureau, in a speaker bureau, it'd be amazing. This is text I want you to use when you're describing James Taylor. So what you'd have your abbreviation would be Z James Taylor, and then every time you type in Z James Taylor, it comes up James Taylor's da 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 da, and we've all got the same text. And if suddenly you come to me and say, Maria, I want to update it, I would then go into my snippet for the team, update it, and then everybody immediately has the new update when they're doing a description of James Taylor. And I use it for all sorts of things. So things like directions to my house. Can I have directions to the house? And I put Z directions, and it writes out all the directions, so I don't have to do it again. People say, what's your VAT number? I never remember my VAT number. Z VAT. It comes up. Maria, can you share me, what's your link to this and that and the other? I use it for my links for things as well, because I never remember stuff. Maria, what's your National Health Service number? So I've been needing that. I've had a lot of health stuff this year. ZNHS. I've got it. It's all there. It's all there so fast, right? I am so efficient with my little abbreviations.
Well, I've never heard, I think maybe you have spoken about this tool before, but I don't think so. So I'm going to go and check this out now.
Oh, you're going to love it. It's going to change your life.
Because we have, this is just a really common one that we have, is that you get an inquiry in, you're on a plane, and you're getting this inquiry in, and my assistant is a different time zone to me, and maybe he's asleep, and so you want to get back to people really quickly. And normally what I actually have some saved blocks of text in other documents that I then have to copy and then paste, because it's pretty much the same response that you give with some little tweaks. You may add some tweaks to it. So this tool could be an absolute godsend for this.
Yeah, it's so easy. It's great. I love it so much. How much more are we going to share? How many more? What, one more each?
Let's give maybe I'm going to give two more, I think.
And I'll give one more.
Okay. So I'm going to give one. This is I've just been finishing writing my book, and I'm now working on a second version of the book, which will be a version of the book for a specific industry. And all the writing that I do for book work is using a tool called Scrivener, and I know lots of writers use it. It's a great tool. It's very intuitive. I find it very intuitive anyway. And there's lots of writing tools out there. One of the greatest features about it is this: you can press a button and it just gets rid of everything else, just a blank page. So if you just want to say, I'm going to write for the next 90 minutes, stream of consciousness thoughts, you can just do that as well. And you can also put all your research. So if you're working on a book, you can put your research in it as well. So Scrivener is a tool that I spend a lot of time on at the moment writing, and I would recommend highly.
I've used Scrivener in the past, but when I was writing my book, my publisher wanted me to use Word, so I actually used Word. But actually, if and when I get around to writing the second one, I would use Scrivener, because I have used it in the past. And because also you can reorganize content so easily, can't you? It is so intuitive, and you buy it once and then you've got it, and you've got it over more than one machine if you have a laptop and a computer. So the one I'm going to share, which one shall I share next? Oh my goodness, let me have a look, let me have a think. I think I'm going to share my CRM, because I have had some really bad experiences with CRMs. So I've used lots of CRMs, probably about 5 or 6 in my lifetime, and this is the first time that I actually love a CRM. And the one I'm using, it's just really intuitive. It's really simple. I have not had to have a technician set it up, which is what I've had to do with every other CRM. And I've also not had to have a technician do things when I need to do updates or make changes. I'm using Pipedrive. And I love it. And I'm using the professional version of Pipedrive. And why do I love it? Because it does several things for me that makes my life really easy. First of all, I can have it on my phone, which is great. So I don't have to put all my contacts into my phone. If I've got a new client, I don't need to put all the contacts into my phone in case they call me, because I can just go onto my Pipedrive app, and if I need to phone them or text them or email them, it's all in my Pipedrive app. But even better, I've got all the history and everything. I don't have to go looking online to find the CRM. There's an actual app, and I've got everything there. So if I'm on my way to see a client, or a client phones me, I can quickly look up the latest. What I love is that it pulls in information for me with a plugin, by the way, for LinkedIn, with a plugin called Surf. It pulls in my information from LinkedIn. So if I'm having conversations on LinkedIn as well, it's all in there. It's all in chronological order. It pulls in my information from my email. It does it all automatically if that contact's there. I don't have to BCC or anything, which I used to have to do in other platforms. It just automatically does it. It gives me a great overview of my pipeline. It gives me great forecasts, great visuals, and great reminders. But also the other thing that I love, and oh dear, I don't know if I should say this, but if I send a proposal or I send something to a client or a prospect, it tells me if they've read it. And it tells me when they've read it. And that's quite useful, because if it's all gone quiet, I think, did it get spammed or have they seen it? And if I've seen so I've not heard anything for a week, and then I see, they've opened it 5 times now. Okay, I'm going to get a call now from that person. I don't need to bother them. Something's going to happen. It's quite interesting. So that's quite useful.
Yeah.
Love it.
I used that years ago, that tool, and I used it when I was involved in a project where we had very definite sales pipelines where you wanted to track, roughly your close rate from this stage to this stage is this, so it can project out the cash flow, it can project out percentage of
it can
close,
yes.
And everything, and it was great. We used it for that. It was a very, very good tool. Yes, excellent. So Pipedrive, we'll put that link as well. I have one final one, and this is one David Averin turned me onto this. I want to credit David for it. I use this nonstop, and it's this one here. It's called TripIt Pro.
Oh,
TripIt
yes.
Pro. So this is, if you're a frequent traveler like myself, you get, the clients send you flights that they book for you or hotel reservations, you're booked things, and you just need to create an itinerary. And in the past, if you're working with a bureau, sometimes bureaus would kind of put those itineraries together, sometimes they wouldn't, so you were kind of dealing with that all the time. I can basically throw everything travel related into this tool, into this app, and it basically creates my itineraries for me. So it tells me times of flights. It tells me during the day if a flight is going to be leaving slightly late, for example. It has all of my information in terms of my frequent flyer programs as well, so it can tell me like which ones I can do there. But the thing I use it most for is, especially this time of year, it has my annual travel stats. So I'm looking at it just now. Probably, I don't know whether you can see this. Maybe it's not going to go out of focus.
Very out of focus, yeah.
Yeah. So this year, and I was talking with someone the other day. He was showing me another tool he uses called Flightly, which does something similar. And so I was showing him this tool, and I kind of looked at my mileage that I've done so far. And if you're an eco warrior, turn away now. But it was this year so far 264,929 miles traveled.
Wow.
So that is a total number of days on the road, 156. Total trips, 33. Countries visited, 25. Cities visited, 55 so far as well. And it gives you the carbon footprint as well. And then you can decide if you want to offset that footprint in different ways. We plant trees, is one of the things that we do with a company. And it's great. It's a really useful app. And if you're traveling all the time, definitely try out TripIt Pro. One of the things I like about it is then you can add people to a particular trip. So that could be the logistics person at an events company or a bureau, and they really value that as well, because then they have all this information that you're all kind of sharing the information at the same time. So TripIt Pro, check it out.
And I love that you have a list of tools to play with now. How fun. What fun.
It's great. It's great. So we're going to put any others, Maria, from yourself, or are we done for the...
I think that's enough. I think that's enough. Okay. I think, don't you think? What, you want to go more? You want to carry on?
No, I think we don't do a follow-up next year. Probably all this list will change.
Let's do a follow-up next year, because I think the other things we should be talking about is what tools we use that are physical tools that you can touch and pick up, like microphones and cameras and all that kind of stuff. That's also quite useful. Brilliant.
Let's do that next year. Okay, well, thank you everyone for listening. Maria, as always, I learn loads from you. Thank you for spending this little time together and for sharing it with our audience. If you're wanting to go and check out other episodes of the show, go to speakersu.com and you can find it on the podcast. And if you want us to cover a particular topic, something you're really kind of unsure at just now in your speaking business, then drop an email to hello@speakersu.com. That's hello@speakersu.com. So from me, James Taylor.
And me, Maria Franzoni, who's going to go and get a cup of tea. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Speakers, your message deserves the right stage and the right fee. Maria Franzoni has booked thousands of engagements for world-class speakers, and now she helps speakers like you grow their business one-to-one. If you want more bookings, higher fees, and a speaker business that works, head over to mariafranzoni.me and book a session today.
Do you dream of stepping on stage and being paid big, $10,000, $50,000, or even more for just one keynote? If you're ready to stop speaking for free or low fees and build a speaking business that generates real income, listen closely. Introducing the 7-Figure Speaker Program with James Taylor. He's trained hundreds of speakers to go from small stages to commanding big fees, teaching you the full system. Marketing, sales, craft, profitability. You'll get insider templates, email swipe copy, checklists, everything you need to book more gigs, raise your rates, win speaker bureau deals, and build evergreen revenue streams. If you want the strategy and tactics to build a global speaking business faster than you thought possible, this is your moment. Go to SpeakersU.com and get started today. The stage is ready for you.